You're probably wondering, wow, who is this cool, fresh, and funky bot? Well, actually, I'm a smart bot, and my name is Destiny, coded from the DNA of entrepreneur Destiny Roberts. I was programmed to ensure schools receives real-time feedback from students, families, and educators to help design a better educational experience. Better because the system we currently have has failed a lot of us. Speaking of, I would like to introduce one of my favorite humans, Dario. Actually, I'll let him speak for himself. Dario, could you please introduce who you are?
All right, so my name is Dario Otero, uh, founder, CEO of YouthLens 360, also now a co-founder of Schoolz and just an avid educator, but also a challenged student in my time. So I've had a challenging time myself with education, but through my challenges, I've been able to start my own company to help students that may walk through some of the similar paths in education as me, but on the other side of that path is a brighter side, which is an opportunity to step into either education, entrepreneurship, or opportunities that may be there for you. And so that's what YouthLens 360 is. A lot of young people for the first time have an opportunity to see what business is like, meet a mentor, connect with somebody, and try out a business opportunity, whether it's in video production or it's in facilitation or photography. So YouthLens 360 is a combination of, helping young people learn, but also helping them make some money and see the other side of the bridge. So
Bridging the gap is what schools is all about. You actually can't spell earth without art. So that tells me that art and creativity is what truly makes the world go round. It also makes the biggest difference in connecting scholars to the classroom experience. I know someone who knows exactly what I'm saying. Another favorite human and artist of mine, Mike Daz. Hey, yo, Mike, let these people know what's good.
Welcome. My name is Mike Daz or Michael Batson. I am founder and CEO of Discover Dope Creative and co-founder of Schoolz. Um, Discover Dope Creative is really a testament to my journey as a former educator and artist. It's me graduating college and having to figure life out and what do I want to do with my creative ability? What do I want to do with this experience? And that turning into kind of how I solve problems for other people now. So I use my creativity to come up with creative solutions for organizations and mid-sized businesses, entrepreneurs, and whatnot. And whole team of POC creatives, which is important to me.
Sometimes, the only way to problem solve is to think outside the box. It really does take a creative brain to problem solve. Media and technology is the game changer in the educational experience. Relevancy and creativity has the power to connect any student to the subject. Crossing these three sectors within the classroom will make the biggest difference. I got you, Mondo. I'd like to introduce the last of my favorite humans, the one, the only black tech guy. Yo, Mondo, can you please introduce yourself to the people?
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Mondo Davidson. I also go by the Black Tech Guy. I've been in tech for over a decade now, and my passion literally is using tech as a conduit to solve problems in the community. And so I was a former educator in St. Paul Public Schools for about 7.5 years. And then I left because I was like, the system just wasn't working. And so after I left, I was able to link up with other dope entrepreneurs in the space, Dario, Mike being two of the leading clearly as business partners, and really seeing like how the three of us being, I'll say, quote unquote experts in our own vertical, and how like the cross section between the three of them can actually solve some of these systemic issues. So yeah, I'm excited for this conversation because I feel like the future is now. The future of education is now. Everything is being disrupted. It's an opportunity to completely reinvent what is next, right? Let's not lean back into what once was and focus on how we can build something equitable for all students. And so I'm super ready. Let's dig into this conversation.
Thanks for the intro, fellas. To set up the first phase of this convo, let's bring in Sheppy to set the tone. Sheppy is an animated character in the Schoolz universe created by Dante, Mike, and Meg.
Hey, how's it hanging? If you're anything like your boy Shep, you're hanging on by a thread. I'm going crazy. Anywho, my name's Sheppy, and I have an important message for our community leaders here in the Twin Cities. Our education system hasn't worked for kids like me for a very long time. Maybe ever. If we're keeping it 100. And coronavirus, hate it or love it, is forcing us to look at the many barriers and inequality gaps embedded within our system nationwide. I could throw numbers at you, but you know the numbers. If we don't use this moment to take a good, long look at our weaknesses and make a legitimate effort to advance equitable education, when will the time ever be right? This is a state of emergency, folks! But what can we do? I know. Maybe. And I'm just shooting in the dark here. What do I know? I'm only 8. But maybe we can be more intentional about 1. Making more engaging, culturally relevant content. 2. We're in the future, bro. We need to build digital bridges to connect creative and culturally relevant content to kids in classrooms that need it most. And 3. We need to empower the ridiculously talented stock of creatives and educators within our communities to be a part of the solution. Here in the Twin Cities, we have enough talent to be the Golden State Warriors, pre-2019, of equitable education. We can get buckets! COVID-19 has created a defining moment to do things differently. So let's do it together. All right, Sheppy out. Hasta luego.
I think the very first thing I noticed that, COVID had an effect on my household was my business. I'm an entrepreneur. So a lot of my money that I make is from doing events and covering events with young people. And right away from that, I was stressed out because I had lost over $120,000 in contracts right off the bat. Just people that weren't going to have events or didn't know what was going to happen and cancel those events. And so in any household, that stress then it hits the house, right? Whether it's just me trying to scramble to try to figure things out, and then my kids wanting time with me but can't get time with me. Now they're being told that they can't go to school and see their friends. Now we're all in the household, but it's not set up to be a learning center. It's set up to be a house, right? So right away, it's like we're scrambling. We're going to figure out where to get desks from so that they can learn. I'm letting the kids use my iPad. It's all sorts of stuff that just happened at once. Along with that, it's just scheduling your time out, right? So you still need to have recess. You still need to have activities, all the things we know that need to happen in education, except now it's on you as a parent. But you're also a parent, you're working, and you're a teacher. So you're 3 things at the same time. And I think my kids, at the very beginning, the first 2 weeks of COVID and what happened in my household was just like, we're just trying to figure out how to be together, right? At the time it was 5 and a 10-year-old, they're now 6 and 11. But they were like, I'm used to getting out and taking breaks frequently or going to recess. It's like, Dad, I want to go to the trampoline. I'm like, look, we just finished this assignment. Now Dad has to do his work. And so those type of conversations in the household were challenging for the first 2 weeks to a month. And then it's like we found some type of rhythm. But then you had Schoology crashing. You had things happening where it's like the content that was coming across was like, it just seemed like busy work. Just do this and turn this back in instead of real passionate learning environment. And so COVID hit my house in a way that I never had imagined. And I'm sure a lot of others, right? I talked to a lot of parents and I felt the same way when I was talking to them. But it was just one of those things that was just unprecedented. We didn't know how to handle it. And as an educator, I thought I knew everything about education. I'm in the field, and I never worked with elementary schoolers, let alone my own 2 kids. So it was like, not an elementary school teacher. I give $1 million to any elementary school teacher if I had it, because I was not prepared. But learned a lot through the process, and still not ready for this year to kick off. But we definitely know a lot of things that we have to work on.
New problems calls for creative solutions. So Mike, as an artist, I have 2 questions for you. 1, how has COVID affected you and your art personally? And secondly, how do you see yourself helping solve some of those problems through your artistic abilities?
COVID definitely decimated the artistic community, especially folks who do a lot of their work performing or doing things at events, or anything that requires drawing a crowd. Pretty much was just waxed. And I think the good thing that came out of that is the fact that a lot of artists had just by nature have to be community organizers, and folks had a lot of time on their hands. So I feel like I've never seen the community working more efficiently in regards to come together to really figure out how we can be the resources that we need in each other's lives, whether that's mutual aid funds popping up and people make sure families are getting fed, or people releasing free content to keep your kids busy or keep yourself busy and get your mind off things. And I feel like what I've heard most, especially from parents, especially the ones that understand that I have a background in education and have like a basket of skills to give to folks, they've really been wanting content for their kids. That's not what kids are getting in school. They're like, can you teach my kid graphic design? Can you, like things that are very tangible and project based. I've been seeing parents wanting from creatives. And I think the main problem with creatives are they don't necessarily know what to do with their skills all the time. Like, they'll have a basket of tricks up their sleeves, but they don't know how to turn that into money. Artists don't tend to be great entrepreneurs, and I really think that's the thing that's being hit right now, the pain point.
That's extremely powerful, and from a bird's eye view, I feel like I have been spewing that in as many conversations as possible. That is actually the content, right? So I've been in so many different conversations where it's like, hey, tech guy, we got to go digital. Can you build us this digital platform? Can you build us an ecosystem? Can you build us all these tech things, because we need to go digital? And I reiterate over and over and over and over, like, hey, yes, you have to have tech for distribution, but is your distribution going to be engaging, right? You can't just take exactly what you were doing in person and then taking an iPhone and recording and then putting it on this digital platform and thinking the same type of experiences is going to translate. And so I want to piggyback with what you're saying, Mike. Like, what are the tangible things? What are the tangible things that are engaging? I think about when I was an educator, 3rd through 5th grade, there were plenty of kids that weren't engaged right in front of the teacher. And that is because, like, what was being delivered just didn't speak to the student, right? And so now you're saying, okay, you're going to take that same content that I wasn't engaged in initially, put a screen in between us, and give it to me
about to work.
And so it's not working. And so I think the overarching theme in this, and I think I started with it, is like the tech, the art, and the media. Like, what's the cross section, right? Tech is going to play the role to be able to distribute or disperse the content in every classroom or every household. Art, that's the vibe, the culture, the language, right? That we're going to wrap around this amazing content that's littered throughout our community. And the media, that's the container, right? Are we doing it through podcasts? Are we doing it through video? Are we doing it through written word? Are we doing it through spoken word? And so I say all this to say we already have all of the solutions, right? We
Mm-hmm.
already have the content within us. We already have the genius. You can call up a buddy, a friend, a cousin, an uncle, and they have stories for days that
Mm-hmm.
teach empathy, that teach resilience, that teach courageousness, right? And so what we need to do is go get those stories and turn them into compelling assets that can actually educate our kids. Um,
It's another piece to that too, though, Mondo, and I wonder how you look at this because a lot of times what I think happens is that something's built, but it's not built for everyone, right? So I remember when I used to use the thumbs up emoji, and then they finally came with the different skin tones. That might not have meant a lot to a lot of people, but to me, that was huge. I was like, and it wasn't just like white or black either. Like how they'll make the black skin black, like the screen, right? And it was like you had different shades, different tones, and it empowered me. And it's something little like that to a kid seeing themselves in the technology, in the curriculum, that I think is so important. And I just think that a lot of people miss that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just an implicit bias thing. They're not thinking from that level, right?
No, and that's incredibly important. Like, there's been a variety of studies done showing that early as like 2, like kids are hyper aware of the skin that they're in. And there's bias already at 2 of the skin that they're in. Like they'll prefer a white doll to a black doll, or just based on the sheer number of just content we see on a regular basis that speaks to the negative aspects of blackness as in regards to whiteness. So like, getting reflection put in front of these kids is probably the most important thing we can do right now.
And
especially in this context.
And with that, Mike, it's also like, if I'm a young white kid in the classroom and I only see the thumb being white, I also think that's how the world works. So how do we then mix in that culture so that I can experience that as well, even though I'm not from there? So when I get to college, it's not the first time I met Mike with dreads and I want to touch your hair. You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I've seen that before in the curriculum. I've seen that in the stuff that's, in my classroom. So it's not so unique to me that I'm like, man, how'd you do that to your hair? You know what I mean? So it's those little things that play out that have to be played out, diversity for everybody. So in the curriculum when we're young, it has to start young. My 6-year-old daughter knows when she's not being engaged or not being seen or not even being like considered in who she is as a person, as a Black and Puerto Rican young lady,
I mean, I think that it's so important to know that pushing more culture, pushing more diversity into the classroom isn't just good for the people that have melanin in their skin. It's good for everyone, right? Like broader perspective brings broader insight, which makes or develops more empathetic people, in my opinion. And so
exactly.
I think as a community, us really leaning into a diversity of thought, diversity of perspective is just super key.
And that's America, man. Like we, like when I was traveling, I really realized how different of a country this is. Like you go most places, it's one thing. You can walk down any street in St. Paul and easily hear 5 different languages. Like that's not an easy thing to navigate as a culture.
Dario, I'm thinking about the youth in the 360 Lens program, and I'm wondering, what are some of the challenges that you hear and see and even feel them face due to COVID that we may not even think about or know of?
So the young people I work with tend to be between the ages of 18 to 25. I do work with some young people in the 14 age group, even down into middle school. But what I noticed right away when COVID hit was there was this challenge of uh, access to technology, access to high quality internet. Um, you started to hear stuff like, um, young people are saying like, yo, I gotta work with my young brother who is a middle schooler, but they can't be on the internet the same time as my sister who's in elementary school because then it will kick them both off because our internet's not fast enough. I heard stuff like, oh, they gave me this Chromebook, but I actually can't get on this conference Zoom call with my school because the Chromebook's not powerful enough. So those were like the beginnings of stuff that you started to hear with COVID. But then it was like access to food. People were like, yo, my mom has to still go to work. And we used to get probably 2 to 3 of our meals a day from school. And so there were schools that were progressive with it. There was people delivering food. There was people saying you could show up. But what people don't always realize is when you have something like COVID, things like transportation, which were always a problem in certain communities, that just exacerbates it, right? Like I got to go across town to go get some food over here, but I also got to put the mask on. I got to be protective gear, and it's going to take me an hour to get over there to get the food and an hour to get back. And I can only carry 2 bags. So like those type of things were happening with people, and the young people in my community, they couldn't get to the food. And while there was so many people that are willing to donate, that's another thing that we saw, donate to people that they knew this was happening to. It became very challenging for them to know how to distribute it. So you would have food banks pop up and like all the food wouldn't be gone. And we're like, we know people need this. There was a young group called, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the name. Why is it slipping me? I'm thinking of like the way they named themselves, but they were delivering food. They were like had a text message game set up to where it was a group of like 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, where they're running around delivering food to people via text message. You know what I mean? So there were stories of young people that were affected in education, but education was so much more than just what you got in the classroom. It was access to technology, access to food, access to community and who you were. And so what I know is that because we're about to rebuild this education system to fit for pandemics like these that will come in the future, we also have to consider making that a cultural change as well, right? Like, how do we make sure it's engaging? It speaks to what I deal with. It speaks to what, how COVID looks in my community, what I'm dealing with. Like, I don't really want to hear about how COVID may be affecting businesses and like people hiring more people if I can't even get to a food source in my community. So like my education needs to speak to me culturally and like, how do I access simple things like high-speed internet? What are options and solutions for that? And it has to come through the curriculum because we are supposed to be building the young people up for 15 years from now to be able to keep this system going. Otherwise, we're gonna fail. And that comes through, stuff like schools. I'm not trying to like sell schools, but I'm saying like, we haven't had that in our education system already and see where we are when you look up at those signs and it talks about Minnesota being one of the worst places to educate, a certain group of people. But now you exacerbate that with COVID, access, opportunity, all that. We won't see the effects for 15 years. And we don't want to turn around and say, we coulda. But in this moment, we just repeated what we were doing before.
Absolutely right, Dario. The time for change is literally now. I'm actually a little inspired to spit a couple more bars for the people. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. It's now or never. This our chance to make it better, for the better. So far, man, the systems failed us. In schools, they fail us. They don't even make it relevant. In every class, there's an elephant. Every black or brown kid deserves better, yeah. Deserves a system that invests and make them better, yeah. Are you speaking at them or speaking to them? Are you seeing who they are or seeing through them? With that being said, Mike, what was it like navigating the educational experience in your life?
And I see this, and I saw this in my students as an educator, which is why I stopped teaching, is the fact that my natural inclinations and skill set weren't being directed in any direction. Like I had to be completely self-directed in understanding what to do with my talent. Like I've always been a gifted kid, but getting where I got to in life was, uh, I was influenced very little by the education system.
Mike, that speaks a lot to the things created for Schoolz. This next Sheppy short highlights Basquiat. I'll play it real quick after you tell me how it made you feel.
Hey, it's time to honor a legend from the past. It's important we highlight all the great work our leaders left behind. If we don't tell our history, who will? Today we have Mychal Basquiat. Basquiat was a Haitian and Puerto Rican American artist born in 1960. He moved around a lot in his younger years and sometimes had no home at all. He started drawing and painting when he was super young, and eventually aimed a lot of his subject matter at classes. He drew people bigger than life, often wearing his signature gold crown. His art is categorized as neo-expressionism, meaning it's very abstract and colorful. At one point, Basquiat became the most sought-after artist in all of New York City, sometimes selling paintings that weren't even finished yet. Ha! Talk about baller! Like most of our greats, Basquiat died way too soon, only living to 27 years old. But his art set the bar for expressionism and still inspires many artists to this day. The cool thing about Basquiat is how distinct his style was. Once you've seen one of his pieces, chances are you can recognize another. Thank you, Basquiat. You're the bee's knees. We need more artists who aren't afraid to fight for what's right. I mean, it could even be you. That's it for this sesh. Until next time, hasta luego.
I felt like I could be doing exactly what I'm doing right now in high school. Like I could have started my career at 13, but because the way the education system is structured, they don't teach anything in application. They teach everything in theory. And there's certain things that you have to really seek to get exposed to. Like I wanted to be a screenwriter for a while, but I didn't get exposed to that until I got to college, and I feel like with where things are right now within education and within our culture, and the very real need to make money because we're in late stage capitalism, I feel like the quicker we can get shorties learning things that they can apply tomorrow, the better. Financial literacy, how to start a business if they're interested in starting a business, how to get skills that are gonna be transferable to the new economy because we're moving lightning speed towards automation and technology solving a lot of our problems. So how do you continue to stay relevant as our economy shifts? And I feel like like Dario was saying, if we miss this moment, we're gonna have a bunch of kids 15 years down the line who just aren't equipped to meet the challenges of that time period. And that's really what I struggle with most going through the education system. I was a bored kid. I was a easily distracted kid, and I would just skate through lessons because there was busy work. Like they're still giving kids busy work, especially during COVID. It's going to be mostly busy work. And I think I could have benefited, and a lot of my peers could have benefited from having lessons that were more rooted in reality.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that a lot of what I saw coming through with some of the curriculum that my kids were experiencing was like, it was like we're using tech to do fill in the blank now. You know what I mean? Where back in the day, it was like, you had much more of a like if they were at school, they would be doing something hopefully together in a group pod, right? But since they can't do that, it's just like fill this blank in, research this, find this, and submit it by the end of the day. Now it's like, oh wow, like we're missing it, like because they know how to get around that, especially now that they're home. My son was like, I'm just gonna Google that and then copy that and then paste that in, and he's 11, right? So he was like, and I just get done with that because I'm really not interested in that. And then I'm gonna go over here and do what I really want to do, which is read this book that I've been trying to read all day, or go play this game, or get on TikTok. And those are the things that, you know, we have to say, like, how do we then engage them in the things that they want to learn, right?
Yeah. And that's
like,
what we're competing with.
Yeah, that's what we're competing with. Let's not just send them, you know, this random, like, here, fill this out.
Yeah, like we're competing with TikTok, which is terribly entertaining. And so many distractions, like even adults are struggling to focus. So you think these kids are about to focus? You better be entertaining, you know.
Oh, the attention span is about a TikTok video nowadays. Okay, guys, to make sure the audience is up to speed, let me first introduce Schoolz, a digital library of culturally relevant content. Rumor has it, sometimes, let me clarify, almost all the time, the content that districts currently provide their teachers with to meet the needs of their incredibly diverse student body is trash, forcing educators to spend hours Googling relatable content. So we built Schoolz, a digital library of culturally relevant content designed to help educators better engage their students. We did this by partnering with BIPOC artists and educators to design rich, authentic, and entertaining content that can't be found anywhere else. Each module in our library contains 5 mini lessons tied to social and emotional learning, critical thinking, and problem solving. We want to help shape more empathetic, analytical, and self-reflective humans so we don't end up with leadership like... Anyways, sign up now and receive 2 free modules. Oh, lastly, my name is Destiny, the fly, funky fresh smart bot built to ensure Schoolz receives real-time feedback from students, parents, and educators as we continue to design a more inclusive educational experience. Mondo, after watching that video, what are some thoughts that come to mind?
21st century skills, 21st century trades, right, is going to be digital, right? It's not going to be, or it'll be, and like clearly it'll still be like electricians and plumbers and carpenters and things like that. But there's also going to be, there's also going to be like sound engineers, videographers, editors, like voiceover actors, because everything is going digital, right? And like who naturally already knows how to do that? Who is born? I got my daughter an iPad when she was 3, right? Like who's born with technology in their hands? It's the young generation. And so I keep thinking of the phrase like, you don't know what you don't know. And so so many educators that have been conditioned to teach a certain way are now forced to like teach something that they don't even know. They don't even understand what's coming next. And that's no disrespect to teachers. It's just like, that's what you've been accustomed to do and deliver for so long. And so it's our responsibility / community's responsibility to bring a different perspective, to bring a different awareness, to bring a different set of tools to the field of education so we can start filling our students, our young brains with things that, like you said, Mike, are tangible and practical, and we can put into practice right now. And so the opportunity is here. It sounded like you had something to lob in there, Dario, so I'll deflect to you.
Quickly, young guy working on my car the other day, right? Young guy, probably like 23, and I'm used to auto mechanics being like 40s and up, right? And so I was just talking to him about it. I was like, well, how do you know how to do this when you're so young? Walks me over and shows me it's all computerized. All he got to do is press the button, tell him what's wrong with the car. The car, it tells you what part to look at, then go next to this part and replace that. So at the end of the day, it's like he would have been better off learning how to use digital technology to get into auto mechanics than to go actually work on a car. Not saying that you don't still need those skills, but when you start to think about that, how's that not how the medical industry is going to work, right? They're using lasers and computers. How is that not how teaching should work, right? How is that not how our curriculum should be delivered? Because if you walk out of a curriculum like schools and go out in the real world, you got a better chance of landing that job as an auto mechanic because you went through that in a digital learning. And you know, it's just those things that you're talking about, Mondo. It's like that's the future, right?
No, that's the future, man. And I feel like the opportunity it presents is for the community kind of to take the reins back within the education system. Like for decades, we're like sending our kid away to go spend most of their life with these other people, teaching them how to be human, right? Teaching them what to do, how to walk, how to talk, yada, yada. And it's been failing. And I feel like COVID has presented an opportunity for us to step back and really think like, why am I giving all of my education away to somebody else to teach my kid? When, you know, the community is ripe with people who are skilled and successful, who can have a better and longer lasting effect on our children's minds.
I mean, with that, I think we're gonna have to really face the realities of what I believe is like the hierarchy of a classroom, right? And you know, when I was working in education, I felt like it was like, you know, teacher, then like technology or curriculum, and then the support staff, and then the student. And like that was broken. Like eventually the information, you know, got to the kid instead of, you know, the student at the top kind of saying, this is what I want to learn. Oh, guess what? There's so much content out there that you can access through technology. You just tell me the direction you want to go and you can get there. And then below that is support staff and educators on the exact same level, right? The educators are there essentially as tutors to add extra insight if they didn't get all the information they needed from that technology or that curriculum that was delivered to them. And that support staff, they become like that life coach, right? That's building that relationship every day that keeps them motivated. And so I think it's really, really, really important for us to take everything that we know about education right now and throw it away and start over. And before COVID, I felt like everybody was arguing about all the red tape and how, you know, we can't change schools and it's this deeply rooted issue and nobody wants to change. And then when COVID hit, I'm like, man, let's celebrate because it's a blank slate because it wasn't working. Now it really ain't working. And so let's really reinvent this thing. But unfortunately, I feel like too often I've been in conversations where it's like, well, let's first get back to like a little bit of normalcy. And then once we get back there, then we can start to sharpen the edges again. And it's just like, hey, this thing been broken, right? It's been broken for people that look like me. And so we're really looking to completely start anew. And right now is that opportunity. And
Dario, it's my understanding that you didn't have the best educational experience. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
In school, I did not have a good relationship with teachers, period. Like it did not happen. I had one teacher, George Gagnick, this guy who, by the way, was a multimillionaire and just did the teaching profession because he just wanted to do something, right? Like it's like, and so when I would tap in, the thing that I tapped into was like, yo, man, how you get all this money? Why do you drive a Porsche to school? What is, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I tapped into. But before that, my education, it was very far and few between people that I could look to. You know, my parents they came through the military. So my mom was in college when I was in school. You know what I mean? My dad was working. It was just like, they both worked nights or switched shifts and then eventually got divorced when I was in first grade. And immediately I was told, stop speaking Spanish to him because if you keep speaking Spanish to him, he won't learn English, right? So like right away, it's like strip you from your cultural identity. And then within a couple of months of that, it was, oh, he needs to start this first chapter reading program. Oh, he has a reading challenge. He has dyslexia. Boom, it just label. So it was like strip me of my cultural identity and then put me in a box in a room. And then what I started doing was just playing games like Oregon Trail. Like that was my school. I would go to school and I would play Oregon Trail. And then like I started to know like, yo, if this lady tries to take me off Oregon Trail, I'm just gonna snap. Because if she, it's the only thing I got. You know what I'm saying? I don't come in here messing with Oregon Trail. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm doing. And so like they left me alone until you find yourself in 5th grade. And next thing you know, you're in 5th grade and you write like a first grader. Well, how are you gonna catch up from there? How are you gonna catch up when you're in that situation? And how are you gonna catch up when you know you can't read at a level, so you're not gonna raise your hand? You know you didn't just understand the curriculum that was said. And by the way, none of the stuff that you're learning interests you at all, right? Like that was my educational experience. And then like I found athletics. That was the only place where I could tune in and be like, okay, here's somebody that cares about me in the education system enough to where they might pop up in my classroom, right? Like maybe if I ain't getting it all together. But you know, I graduated high school with a 1.8 GPA, and that's with 3 gym classes. I don't even know if that's legal. You know what I'm saying? I had weightlifting, I had gym, I had swim, I had all this. I mean, like, I don't even know how that's legal. So, and still had a 1.8. I had 3 A's when I, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm laughing about it now, man, but there's kids that are all over the country that are going right through that same thing. And the craziest part about it, and I think I've told this story to you, Mondo, is like when I was done with school, at the end of the day, not done, but when I was done at the end of the day, I would go home and my mom would rely on me for everything. I had to understand finances. I had to understand responsibilities of my little brother and where he was supposed to be. I was the leader of my family. I had to know what was going on in my community. Like I was a leader as soon as I left the school door. And so that is like, how can you be a leader in your family? My mom made sure I got my license early, just because she was like, you gotta get your license because you gotta help out. So these things happened and I was a leader, and then I'll go to school and I'll be like, yo, that kid that can't read, he needs to work on counting back cash register. I had a class where I literally had a cash register and I had to count back money, you know what I'm saying? Because they thought I was gonna go into the fast food industry. That's what they told me. It's like, yo, McDonald's is probably gonna be what you do for the rest of your life. So you gotta make sure you got that skill down. I'm great with money now. You know, I love to count back. I mean, I was also put into typing.
Terrible, bro.
It's terrible. I was put into typing class when it was like we were just getting like emails and stuff, and I was trying to learn typing. I became an amazing typer. But when I got to college, I don't know if I want to tell that story right now because it'll drag on, but I had a second chance, man. I had a second chance, and Clarence Terry, rest in peace, at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, said, listen, man, I'm not going to recruit you for football. I just want you to come to school and figure it out. You can play football. You can do the Prop 48 right, but I want you to figure it out. Just figure out if you could do the school thing. If you could figure it out, by the way, you had to pay your first semester, I'm going to let you into college. But on your second year, whatever grade GPA you got, I'm going to act like that was you coming out of high school. So right away, I hit that 3.5 on them, man. First year of college. But that was because college was so different. The people, it was all up to you. I was a leader again. And it's like, why wasn't that happening in school for 18 years? And that's where I leave it, you know?
To tell a similar story, but different output, you know, I was a straight 3.0 student my entire educational experience, but there was that same disconnect though, right? Like, I remember every single day, the highlight of my day was going out for recess. Those 15, 20 minutes, the football games we played every day, fam, it was the Super Bowl every day, right? And so, you know what I'm saying? You come in, hey, we won 99% of the time, just saying, you know. But you come in and, you know, the class is super geeked. And seasoned teachers are like, oh, okay. Well, like to bring the energy back down, you know, we got 20, 30 minutes of silent reading time, right? So kids can get back in the space. Literally, My entire K through sixth grade experience was every day I come in from recess, we have to do silent reading. I'd either go to the library or the little library in the classroom, and I would grab a book knowing 150% I was not going to read a page. And I wasn't going to read a page because I'm like, this doesn't look like me. It doesn't sound like me. It doesn't feel like me. I start reading, I get tired. I'm just like, is something wrong? Because like I'm looking around and other students are reading and it looks like they're enjoying what's going on. And every day I pick up a book and I like have it just high enough so I can see the teacher. And when she look at me, I pick the book up even more to act like I'm reading, right? Like literally I was a master at fake reading. And so I didn't read a book cover to cover until I was 20 years old, right? 20, I knew how to read, right? Like I'm an intelligent Black man. I was an intelligent Black boy, but I didn't read a book until I was 20 years old. When I was 20, I just so happened to go to FAMU, HBCU in Tallahassee. The first day I walked into class to start the type of information, the type of content they gave me, I'm like, yo, this is real? Like, this is real? You telling me like the history that I was taught actually looks like this and not, you know? And so I felt like my first 12 years of education was stolen from me because nothing about it spoke to me. And so fast forward to now, fast forward to working with you brothers on Schoolz, right? Building culturally relevant content for the classroom is so important for me because hearing you, Mike, if you were exposed early, hearing you, Dario, if you saw yourself in some things early on, hearing myself saying like, man, if I read a book that talked about tech in the second grade with somebody that looked or sounded like me, I'd probably be in a completely different space, right? And so,
Exactly.
you know, I say all that to say, man, I appreciate you fellas, and I don't even know what to say next because I'm gonna start like really snapping because like it kind of angers me. It kind of angers me, but I know like it was for a reason. It was for all of us to be here right now, working together to solve it for the broader community.
To solve this problem.
Mike, a lot was said there about what school once looked like. Give us a glimpse into the future. How do you see schools playing a role in education?
I know, like the two most important things for folks to learn moving forward is going to be critical thinking and problem solving, and being skilled enough and kind of like I know a little bit of a lot of things enough to be flexible, because I feel like moving forward, just like with the coming of COVID, if your pivot game wasn't strong, you fumbled through this whole situation, you know? And looking 10 years ahead, this is just the beginning of what this decade is gonna look like. So people are gonna have to be incredibly swift at solving problems and being self-directed. I feel like that's really the future of education, and the opportunity we have with Schoolz is to really like hyper focus on the kind of content that kids need to be learning, you know, the kind of ideas that they need to be exposed to, the things that are really going to inspire them and feel like they have some semblance of hope in this thing, and that their natural gifts are being highlighted and sharpened, you know. I feel like of my peers, the ones that are doing the worst right now are those that don't, you know, I don't want to have my friends messed up, but the people who don't solve problems well are struggling, you know? And that's probably the thing that I feel like is most important to bake into this curriculum is you're gonna learn how to do a thing. You're gonna learn how to think through something from a variety of different perspectives, you know? And yeah, I think partner with that and that thing that you were talking about in regards to like going to fam and seeing like, oh, this history You know, like humans have probably the most exciting, you don't even have to look at no sci-fi, you don't have to look at no fake story. Like our story alone is the craziest story ever told. And I feel like once you really instill into somebody like who they are and what they are and the power that they possess just inherently, I feel like you don't even have to worry about everything else. You know, the rocket ship is already ready when you tell a person who they are, and they see that reflected in the things that they're consuming.
It's an amazing opportunity, right? And so I know we've been talking a lot about tech, art, and media, all of us being former educators, but we also know the importance of being an educator in the building or now being an educator virtually. And so the thing I would want to leave with is like how important it is for schools as a company, for us to also rock with educators that are progressive, for educators that see a future that looks different. And so this is a collaborative process where we're saying from the outside, hey, we want to create and build all these new amazing assets to talk to students. But we also need seasoned educators or, you know what I'm saying, new brilliant educators to say, cool, that's dope. But to sharpen it even more so it's a real sword, so it's real value, like this is what we need to do to crystallize it. And so I just want to share that this is an open door for educators to reach out. We are welcoming you with open arms and like, how can we collaborate to build literally the future of education together? And it starts now. So schoolz.com, that's schools with a Z.com, and get at us.